Чокма, Сахочепо, Mariana Mason, Чикаша Saya.
Привет! Меня зовут Елена, и я говорю по-русски.
My mother tongue is Vietnamese. I was actually born in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and I moved to the U.S. when I was 15.
Muraho amazina y'iniribageza Claudia nkaba nturuka mu Rwanda.
নমস্কার, আমার নাম জয়নাথ আর আমার মাতৃভাষা বাংলা।
Chinese is my first language. It is a difficult language, so I feel lucky to be its native speaker.
Buongiorno, il mio nome è Paola e sono italiana.
I love languages in general, but English is my mother tongue and my favorite.
Sanbonani makadi starang nonzitadiwa madinyara kanema edobao Zimbabwe.
Hello, I am Nico. My mother tongues are Ilocano, Tagalog, and Ibaloy.
Honde Onde Aimbone, Antonia Belindo Akon, Amalagoon Agoikon, Norman Gat, Agilgo, Mountain View Gat, Ak Albago.
My name is Marjan Serafipur. Originally I'm from Iran and my mother tongue is Persian.
أنا اللغة العربية هي لغتي الأم وأنا أعتز بها.
Hola, soy Viviana Pérez.
Hello, my name is Fabio de Sais Silva. I'm an assistant professor of international studies and the week carry professor of Brazilian studies at IAS OU. And I'm here to talk to you about the importance of my native language, Portuguese.
Mother tongue has a very powerful impact on the individual because the first function of the senses is the auditory. As babies, we hear our mother's words as the very first words we get exposed to.
To me, my language is very important because it's a way that I can express myself without barely speaking. Certain sounds that I make can speak 1,000 words as compared to like having to explain myself in English.
To me, the Chickasaw language has been very much a journey of identity and reconnecting back to my culture.
My mother tongues are important to me because they remain as a connection to my ancestors, where I come from, and the traditions which we have passed from generations to generations.
Persian language is important to me because it has given me the ability to keep my Iranian identity even after living more than 40 years outside of Iran. I'm so glad I've been able to teach this language to my daughters who were born and raised here, and so now they can keep in contact with our family and friends in Iran.
For two reasons, Bengali is very important to me. The first one is we actually found to have Bengali and as our national language, as our state language. At the same time, our predecessors actually lost lives. They lost their lives to give us that opportunity to talk and use this language in all spheres of life.
The reason why Muscogee language is so important to me is because my tribe was forcibly removed to Indian Territory, as well as forced onto reservations, and was forced to send their children to boarding school where they were forced to lose their language and their culture.
It has so many words, many of them very colorful, a lot more words than most languages. Some of my favorites are exuberant and catastrophe and serendipity.
Italian as my mother tongue is important for me for two reasons. First, it shapes my identity. Second, it determines my membership.
first language is Spanish. It was taught to me by my grandmother, my mother, and everybody before me. Everybody who's like worked and sacrificed a lot for me to be where I am today. So every time I speak Spanish, it just reminds me of everything like my mom and my parents and everybody who loves and supports me have done for me so far, and I'm really proud of that.
I grew up speaking Kinyarwanda because that's what I was taught ever since I was growing up, so that became my first language. To me, Kinyarwanda is a crucial part of my identity because that's the only language I learned when I was growing up, and it's also my heritage because that's what I was taught ever since I was born until today, and luckily I'm able to speak it today.
Why is the mother language important to us? Because it structures our unconscious. It determines how we get to know the world, and it influences how our feelings and thoughts are.
When it comes to our languages, I was obviously taught the one that I was raised by. And so my mother, she was Kiowa, my father is Kiowa, Pawnee, Choctaw, Navajo. And for me, it's understanding that languages live beyond the words that we speak.
Portuguese then being my main means of communication with friends, with family, and with workmates. Even if I'm not in Brazil right now, Portuguese continues to be the language in which I do several things, like counting, like talking to some Brazilian friends over WhatsApp, singing, or even organizing some of my reasoning when I have to write an email or write an article.
It's important for me to speak Russian because I can talk to my family back in Russia, especially with my grandma who lived through World War II and can share her memories about the events of that time.
It helps me connect with my family and loved ones overseas. I get to connect with people who share my cultural background here in the United States. Vietnamese is one of the largest community in Oklahoma City as well. It also connects me to my heritage. We have a long, rich traditions and heritage that I'm so proud to be a part of.
What does the English language mean to me? It means it's a language of literature for me because I am a writer. It is, we know, a language of colonialism and dominance, and it's a language that's used internationally all around the world for business and commerce and technology. But for me, what I love about English is how it pulls together and has always pulled together so many different languages and transformed them into a language that it can be used in such a rich way, and particularly in terms of literature.
Bengali is important to me because it signifies the culture that I'm part of and the struggles that my people had to undertake to speak their own language. On the National Mother Tongue Day, I recognize all of the people that have stood behind this language and the ingrained parts and the beauty of the language that I get to speak today.
Because if we don't make an effort to preserve our language, who will?
When I think about why linguistic diversity is important, 3 things come to mind. The first is connection. Being able to speak another language allows me to connect with other people in more meaningful ways. Even just being able to greet somebody in their own language allows us to connect in ways that might otherwise not be possible. For me, coming from an immigrant family, being able to speak my heritage language connects me to my family and to my culture and to my ancestors in ways that might otherwise have been lost. The second thing that comes to mind is creativity. One of the things that we do with language is organize and categorize the world, and I am constantly amazed by how creatively languages do this. Thinking about the creative ways that people categorize the world allows me to see my own environment through different lenses. Finally, the third thing that comes to mind when I think about linguistic diversity is love. Connecting with people across cultures and across generations, celebrating diversity, and embracing the beauty in language are just some of the ways that I can put more love out into the world and hopefully make it a more compassionate and kind place.